Okay, good evening, everybody. This is the meeting of the Historical Commission of Concord, December 8th, 2022. First thing I would like to do is to call a roll call of the members present. Please state your name and present. So I'll call you Nancy.
Nancy Nelson, present.
Michael.
Michael Capizzi, present.
And myself, Melissa Sawfield, present. We are the three full members, and then Ryan.
Ryan Hanley, present.
Jesse.
Cataldo, present.
Thank you. So I think we may hear from at least one other member of the Historical Commission, because the first item on our agenda, because I know we want to get to the, we have two public hearings tonight, so I wanted to just do this little business meeting associated with the members of the Historical Commission, and that is a full member, Rebecca Lemaitre, has reached out to me and said that because of some family obligations that she will need to resign her position. This would mean that the next person in line to become a full member would be you, Chessie. So I'm asking if you are ready, willing, and able to step up to that position.
I was going to ask Ryan. I'm really looking forward to joining as a full member. As everyone on the commission knows, I am due with our third in 2 weeks. And so given the uncertainty with probably next month or two, I thought it might make more sense for Ryan to take this spot and for me to take the next one. But I defer to Ryan as well.
Sounds very reasonable to me. I'm just glad we're not losing you. That's
No.
okay. So Ryan, would you be willing to step up?
I think usually I would insist on deferring to Chessie, but in this case, I'll defer to her desires, and with the complexities that could, sure, of course, I'll happily, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. Do I need to request a roll call vote to accept his as a formal full member? Probably.
Why not?
Okay, so all in favor of appointing Ryan Hanley full membership to the Concord Historical Commission, please, you have to say publicly, state your name, say aye.
Yep. Nancy
Nancy?
Nelson, aye.
Michael?
Michael Capizzi, aye.
Melissa Sawfield, aye. So welcome aboard, Ryan. So one other little piece of business here is that that means there is an associate member position open. For those of you who remember when we were recruiting other members some time ago, the name Nancy Frisella Lee was one of the people who submitted an green card and her resume. And I would like to propose her for nomination to be the other associate member. Nancy has done a lot on behalf already of the Historical Commission when we were working on preparing the scenic road bylaw for town meeting. Nancy did considerable research on behalf of this. She's been very helpful with that. She's also done work with the Concord Museum. She's working on a PhD in art history from University of Cambridge in England. She's worked on behalf of the Old Manse. I cannot any more highly recommend her to be a part of our commission. So I would like to know if there's a second for that and if we could actually take a vote.
I second. Enthusiastically second.
Thank you. So all in favor, again, we have to ask just the three full members. Nancy?
Nancy Nelson, aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And myself, aye. So I know she's not here. She's actually in England, but she was going to watch the tape of this whenever, I don't know, she's 6 hours ahead of us.
Is Ryan official?
I'm sorry, yes, Ryan, you can vote now.
I take it, actually, I was wondering that, I suspect, wouldn't my commission have to be approved by the select board before I would be able to move from associate to?
Probably. So yeah, I have to put your name up for the next, whenever the select board meeting in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, what?
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for that. So anyway, we have three people. We can vote this. I appreciate all you. So now, Now, to our public hearing. So I do want to welcome all the folks who are here this evening. I don't recognize a lot of these names, so I'm thinking they may be folks from the neighborhood. As those in the commission, we have 2 demolition delay hearings tonight. And just a reminder to all of you, the purpose and the process. The bylaw was established as a procedure for a way to preserve and protect significant buildings and structures here in Concord. Tonight, we will review the property's historical significance and whether or not our commission determines that it should be preferably preserved or allowed to undergo demolition. And if the building is demolished, does that mean that the town would lose an architecturally historic building that would be detrimental to the town's historical heritage? But if we do determine that it should be preferably preserved, we would take a vote, and this would result in a 1-year delay starting from tonight. So I'd like to ask, the first one is 87 Prairie Street, Jeff Cronin, if he would like to speak and explain to us why you're requesting the demolition. And I would say that we are always interested in structural issues and what other options there might be to preserve, restore, rehab, or even relocate the building.
Yes, this is Jeff Cronin. I'm here with my partner, Josh Naughton. So we're in this meeting together.
Okay.
We have a building company. We've built 20 houses in Concord over the last 4 or 5 years. And we acquired this, I don't know, some months back now, at 87 Prairie Street. And our feeling is that this, the structure as it is not really compatible with what the market is looking for today. So we're looking to modernize it and put a new building there. The basement is really not usable. The design is very chopped up, and it's got a lot of drawbacks. It's typical for a house that was built in 1905. So we did not expect to be in any kind of delay here. We did find a document that the town commissioned in August of 2013, which was called the Historic and Cultural Resources Survey of West Concord, Massachusetts, which had no mention of this house or its immediate neighborhood. It did talk about the Derby district, etc., but there was no mention of it. And I have a very close friend who lived at 76 Prairie Street for a quarter of a century, and he never mentioned anything. And when I told him we were going to buy 87, he had no comment about that except that it was a good idea and, put something nice there. And I just told him about this meeting the other day. He never heard of any of this, and he literally lived in one of these 6 houses for a quarter of a century. So this is not something we thought was an important issue. And if we thought there would be any delay on this, we would not have acquired the property in the first place. So I know a report has been written since we bought it. But anyway, we're hoping that we can handle this expeditiously. We have met with the abutters on what we would build there, and we're happy to work with them and do something that we think is compatible in the neighborhood. We don't want to do something that's incompatible. But I know that's not the purpose of this meeting.
No, I mean, the demolition delay bylaw has been on the books in Concord for quite some time. And actually was updated not long ago, a couple of years ago, to include any house built within 50 years. So this house clearly falls into that category. It also has some other important characteristics as a part of a neighborhood. Ann Clifford, who is the a liaison to our staff and town planning for the planning division, has done a lot of research on that. And Ann, I'd like you, I also went with you to look at this house, and I know Nancy looked at the other house for the hearing, but Ann, if you would like to give a brief description of the historic importance of this neighborhood and the house's position in it. Oh, you're muted.
Yes, and just to clarify, this house was surveyed back in 1988 as part of the Derby addition and also the Prairie streetscape. So those are on the Mass, they're on the Concord inventory and also the Mass Historical Commission inventory. They're up on our website. I can share the screen if you want. Let's see. Okay, so here, here's the Prairie Street form back from 1988. So this house has been recognized for quite a long time, and this whole neighborhood has been recognized for quite a long time as a historically significant neighborhood. And here's the Derby Edition form too, which is also, dates way back to 1988. So those forms, generally state that the neighborhood is historically significant and give a very general overview. It was actually really fascinating to go more deeply into the history of this house and its connection to actually the Concord Reformatory. So here's an image of the house, which, even if it didn't have this important history, it's a lovely, modestly sized building that would be affordable to, just regular people, right? People like myself. So it's a contributing property to the well-preserved Derby Edition neighborhood, the first major subdivision of farmland in West Concord, supported by and created for the prison. As a speculative house associated with late 19th century contract labor prison movement, it represents a broad but unusual pattern in residential development that deserves further study. It's also historically significant for its association with the Massachusetts State Reformatory and the woolen and hatting industries it supported through contract prison labor. And this connection to the textile industry is especially important since woolens were the town's dominant manufacturing industry. I won't read all of this, I promise. But I just wanted to give you a brief overview. So the road, Prairie Street or Prairie Avenue, I guess, was laid out in before 1993. And as I just said, it was actually laid out in the 1870s. Here it is on the 1906 map. It was constructed as part of the Derby Edition neighborhood as early as 1874. And that was sort of in anticipation of the prison coming to Concord. And the developer of this neighborhood was actually an instructor in the prison, and the first owner probably also did have ties to the prison as well. So Concord was a hub of prison reform theory as well as practice. And you've all heard of the famous resident transcendentalist and abolitionist Frank Sanborn, who's best known as one of the Secret Six, right? Who supported, oh gosh, help me here. The Harper's Ferry.
John Brown.
John Brown, right, in the Harper's Ferry movement. So that's what he's most famous for, but he was also the leader of the Massachusetts State Board of Charities and prison reform efforts for two decades in the 1860s and 1880s. He did a comprehensive study of prisons just after the Civil War, and he helped reform the prison movement, which used to be the solitary or silent movement, and we won't go into that, but he sort of looked at Irish prisons and shifted toward religious instruction, education, and work, and rewarded people for good behavior. And so as a result of that, Massachusetts reformed its whole prison system, sort of moving women, separating younger folks, which didn't have a deep history of trouble, and also people who were simply inebriated or homeless. So there were separate organizations for those different types of people. And Concord, it had served as a prison, but it was turned into a reformatory for those younger people with very little track records who there was a hope for reform. But also interesting, the part of this reform movement was to employ the young prisoners by connecting them with industrialists. So it was based on this capitalist model, and actually prisons were, if you can believe it, they were income producing after the Civil War. So all of this is just fascinating, I think, and it ties closely to Concord, where the textile industry actually was using the prisoners benefited from their exposure to these industries, and the owners of the textile manufacturers also benefited, to the point where some of these instructors could actually afford to build entire neighborhoods, like this Prairie Street neighborhood.
Which is,
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it short, sorry. So James Dunlap was the man. He was a instructor in the textile room of the prison. He developed this neighborhood. James Dunlap, he was from Scotland and had, worked in textiles in Scotland. The first, and here's, 87 Prairie Street. One of the first owners was in the hatting industry. His father was also in the hatting industry, and the family came here in, what was it? I forget. 1880, the same year that I think it was the the Waring Hat Manufacturing Company came to Concord. So it's likely that there are ties there. So it's just, it has this really interesting history, and it's just a neighborhood of attractive, modest houses. It raises important questions about the relationship between industries, housing, and the prison contract labor system in West Concord and beyond. And even without this fascinating and unusual history, it's an important part of the well-preserved turn-of-the-century neighborhood that's so characteristic of West Concord. And I did mean to mention too that these houses that are connected to the prison, they also reflect other widespread developments in factory-sponsored housing. So factory owners and philanthropists and financiers helped workers become independent by promoting individual home ownership through houses of this size. This was preferable to tenement houses or company-owned houses. And there's this wonderful little quote: individual home ownership, industry, and frugality were the working man's way to wealth.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So the importance of this house, and actually the house across the street, is the neighborhood and the kind of consistency of the neighborhood even today. And that is one of the factors that we would look into to determine whether or not a house might be preferably preserved. And other factors have been if someone of great importance lived in a home, or if the house was designed by a famous architect. But in this case, this home is a part of a neighborhood that still retains its original characteristics, its scale and massing. So I'd like to, before opening up to the neighbors and other folks that are here tonight, I'd like to ask members of the commission to weigh in on their view of the request to demolish the home. So,
I just have a question really quickly. And did you say that this house had already come before the commission within the last few years?
Actually, the neighbor, I should mention that the house across the street, which is also being reviewed tonight, that is the one that had come before the commission just a few years ago, and the commission did find it historically significant and preferably preserved. And there was a demo delay placed on that structure.
And was the basis for that finding, basically what you just summarized, the historical significance of the neighborhood and the character of the neighborhood?
Yes.
So, Nancy?
I'm fascinated to learn more about the history of this neighborhood and how rare it is to see a neighborhood of modest houses still mostly intact, although change has begun to come there, it seems to me. But I wish and I hope that that the owners could look again at that house and how it might be expanded or modified on the interior to more perfectly coincide with what people want today. I know there's a big demand for smaller houses, and people might be paying good money for them. But that's not my business. But I hope that some way would be found to preserve this house and improve it for another 100 years or so.
Michael?
Yes,
Michael?
I parrot these comments, and certainly there seems to be a lot of documentation on file about these structures or this structure. I believe that both structures reflect the historical integrity of that neighborhood, and certainly the history of Concord in that area, particularly when the farm was acquired to build a prison, et cetera, and other aspects of the prison support system. So I do believe that, and I personally find both structures to be very attractive in terms of architectural design. So, I understand that different eras, we move in different directions in terms of design, and what was 100 years ago, someone might not find as attractive, but our role is not to make decisions based on what is attractive today, but what is the historical significance of, as you touched upon, the structure, the neighborhood, who lived there, what was done there, what does it reflect in our community as well as our state. So certainly both structures should be preserved, and we should move forward with a delay.
Ryan, you can speak up. I think even if you haven't fully, I think you should speak up.
All right, even as a non-voting member here,
Yes.
I would say on the basis of the evidence that was submitted as part of the Macros reports of Con DI and Con, I believe it's F of the Derby development, the case for the historical significance related especially to Sanborn and the prison is really fairly strong. And so I think I would echo everything that Michael said, aside from any of my own subjective preferences about what kind of house should or shouldn't be there or its aesthetic appeal. I think that putting on my historian's hat, the case is there in black and white, and I think summarized most of the salient points that come out of that.
Jesse, more comments?
I agree. Everything Brian said, I agree with. And I would say that the staff report part of the materials tonight was super impressive, not only just interesting to read, but just really helpful in preparing, and just very impressive. So thank you.
Yeah, again, I agree. So I'd like to open it up to, Mr. Cronin, but as well as, I don't know who all's on this call or at the meeting. I kind of I'm thinking it might be neighbors. So please raise your hand so I know that you would like to speak. Yes, Cronin?
Yeah, so I'd just like to clarify a couple things. So just to clarify, we're not surprised that we're here before this commission. Obviously, we understand what the rules and regulations are in town, and anything older than 50 years comes before you. So we're not surprised that we're having this conversation. I guess we were surprised just because the neighborhood had been looked at so carefully before, that there was more to talk about with it. But I do know too, so the last time we were before this commission, we did a house, and one of the things, and it's right in your bylaws about being able to document these structures. So and to go back, when we had originally looked at this property, we paid $775 for it. So it's certainly not an affordable house. And any renovation, addition, or new construction, is going to be significantly more expensive. So it's not, I don't really believe that it's an affordable type housing. But we had looked at doing an addition at one time very early on. and it's just, you know, based on the age, the condition, the structure, the repairs needed, it's just, you know, financially isn't very feasible. So the last time we were before the commission, it was, you know, one of the parts of your bylaws is to be able to document these structures and have, you know, a history of it recorded, pictures, videos, stories, people, all that sort of stuff. Which the report that Ann put together is pretty, it's pretty specific and pretty detailed. So I guess the question I would have, because I know the demo delay can be up to 1 year. Last time we were before the commission, we were able to help move that process along pretty expeditiously over the course of a couple months by helping the commission, you know, with information and documentation. So I guess that's my question is, what can we provide? What would you like from us to, you know, get you what you need so we can move through this quicker?
Well, you know, if we tonight vote to deem this preferably preserved, which I mean, just hearing the comments is likely, you could come back to us and it would be a matter of what the commission votes, but you could, I mean, at the very least, we would ask to have it completely documented in photos. You know, you can do a video, but there are a variety of ways to document it visually, but also plot plans, that sort of thing. And, you know, I probably have a list of all that we asked for. Any original documentation you'd have would be great to have. And that would then be put on deposit in special collections at the library. But that kind of is up to what other members of the commission would vote. And that's after we would take a vote tonight. So you'd come back to us.
Right.
You know, our concern is preservation of important historic properties as well as neighborhoods, landscapes too. I mean, that comes under the purview of the Historical Commission. That's our role. I appreciate your role, but we, you know, kind of we approach it from very different points of view. So I would like to ask if there are other folks on who would like to make a comment. Yes, please just state your name and I think your address. I think you're supposed to do that. I don't know your name.
Oh, me, Pilates? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I don't know how I got to be Pilates, but I'm Nicole Hammond. I actually live at 76 Prairie Street, which was commented earlier, and I can guarantee you that Steve Blumenfeld did not encourage for the house to be torn down. Steve is a dear friend of mine, and I know for a fact he would not want any house in this neighborhood torn down. I've lived here for 2 years and have a mirror image of the house that's next up for Doc. And then I lived at 64 Prairie Street for 18 years, so a total of 20 years in this neighborhood. I bought my house at 64 Prairie Street, which is an image of Mrs. Benjamin's house. And I'm sorry, I don't know the address. I only know it as Mrs. Benjamin's house, the beautiful red house. And I bought that house for roughly the same amount, had to do lots of work. And by the way, if I had had that kitchen that Mrs. Benjamin has, I would have been thrilled. And I found the house much more open than my previous house at 64 Prairie. It's easy to put an addition on. And my previous house, because I had a larger lot, sold for over 1.5 after we did some work on it. So there's definitely a need for preservation in this neighborhood. All you have to do is look at Central Street and see how they're preserving older houses, creating a more open floor plan and doing slight variations that totally fit into the landscape and the level of a neighborhood without putting anything out of sorts. And this is a fabulous neighborhood. My children cherish this neighborhood. They cried when I got to move into this house because I needed to downsize. This is an area where people walk that are from other neighborhoods and look at all the houses, because I've sat on the front porches and listened to them talk about it. I am so grateful I get to live in a historic area where Mrs. Sullivan, who is 98, who grew up around the corner, literally grew up around the corner, still lives in this neighborhood, as does Mrs. Delfino, as does Wellesley, who's in his mid-90s. How lucky are we that we get to live in this vibrant, multi-level economic neighborhood where you can have people in their original homes, you can have people come fix up those original homes and want to keep within the character.
Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you. I think it's Eileen Sullivan. Is that?
Yes,
right?
hi. I live across the street from Nick. My mom is 98. She and my dad bought this house, 79 Prairie, in 1947. When after Dunlap, had built this house, they were the first owners. I've been living in New York. Well, I grew up here, so I moved to New York City 30 years ago and have been living there ever since. And I just moved back to West Concord, to the house I grew up in, just to help my mom a little bit here and there. She's very independent, but when I heard that this was happening, it's disheartening. It's just really disheartening that people want to, I don't know, make bigger and mess with the character that is all about this neighborhood. My mom's too shy to, she was gonna pipe in, but she's a little camera shy. And I've known the Benjamins. I grew up with them, my whole life. I'm 63 and have lived here, a long time.
Thank you. Are there other folks who live in the neighborhood who are here who would like to make a comment? Yes, sir. Please state your name and your address. I don't know who you are. Eric Moore?
Where'd he go?
Oh, hi there. Sorry,
Yeah.
thank you for calling
If
on me.
you
My name's
please,
Eric Moore.
yep.
I live at 45 Francis Street. I'm in a butter to 87. I just want to call the committee's attention to the three houses in the south side of Prairie. Mrs. Sullivan's house, what was Mrs. Benjamin's house, 87, the house in question, and Mr. Fisk's house, 95, the White House. So these are three, essentially identical homes. I think part of the neighborhood character is this set of three houses. It's really charming. Mr. Fisk is in his mid-90s, and I don't know what'll happen after he no longer leaves his house. But these two houses, the three houses, really represent just the essence of our little chunk of West Concord. And so I'm really sorry to see the shape of this project to tear down this house. I'd love to see it preserved. So
Thank you. Actually, when I went with Ann and we reviewed the whole area, it occurred to me, this is why the HDC, Historic Districts, has not looked into this area to try and establish an historic district for it. There are a lot of original details to this area, and it's fascinating history in the larger history of Concord, certainly the prison, which is a very important business for the town of Concord. Anyway, it's just an observation. That's not our role tonight, but it's most of the historic districts there's only one in West Concord, and that's around Church Street. Every other one is in the other side of Route 2. At any rate, I'm sorry, I take it, get an aside. Mr. Richard, I don't know.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and address.
Okay, Richard Schumann. I'm at 233 Central Street. And maybe I'm going to lose some friends for what I have to say. I was friendly with the Benjamins. I've lived in this neighborhood for 46 years. And I think there's sort of a false picture that's being painted of the neighborhood. Right now, 2 houses down from me, where the Anderson family lived and raised 7 kids in a very nice ranch house. That ranch house now is a McMansion. And across the street from that house, where Mrs. Damon of the famous Damon family of Concord lived, was a beautiful little cape. That cape is now a McMansion.
That's true.
And anyone from the Historic Society group, if you'd like, I would love to walk the neighborhood and point out to you all the houses. And I'm not talking about, there's been many houses that have been changed successfully and keeping their character. I'm not doubting that at all. But there are many houses in this neighborhood that don't exist anymore. And houses have gone up there that are nothing like the character of what this neighborhood was. And so to me, it's sort of, to put this off for a year, then what happens? I mean, maybe, and I'm just directing this to the 2 builders, maybe one way is to build a house of that style on there. But boy, that house is, they've paid $700,000 for that. And after they're done, it's going to be well over $1 million, because every house that's been redone in this neighborhood is over $1 million. Our house, which we put some additions on, we moved in 1977, which we've tried to keep in style with the house. At least I hope. Is verging on $1 million. So the argument that this is going to be affordable, I'm not sure you're living in the same world that I am. I think Concord is a little bubble. We're surrounded by some other towns like Carlisle and Weston and Lincoln, but a lot of people can't afford $1 million house, and that's what's going to happen to the Benjamin house. Even if it's kept in that style and just maintained, it's going to be, the price to buy it is going to be over $1 million. I'm not sure I consider that very affordable. So, if any one of you wants to walk this neighborhood or drive around it, I can point out many, many houses that were small, affordable houses that don't exist anymore. So I see it as sort of a false picture. I know there's a lot of history with this neighborhood, but the house to me is the Benjamin house. I watched them grow, the kids grow up there, and I knew Mr. Benjamin when he passed away many years ago. And yes, I'd love to see the house fixed up, but it's not the direction that this neighborhood seems to be going, and it's sort of being chipped away slowly. And by you stopping this for a year is only going to delay that house for a year. So that's kind of my argument. And I'll let it go with that.
Thank you. Miss Pilates?
Nicole Hammond.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry,
got Pilates in your name.
I'm so sorry about that. I'll figure it out. I feel like it's 2 different arguments about affordability and historical reference, or in keeping within. If they wanted to build an exact replica of what they have and modernize it and make it a little bit bigger, that would be more than brilliant. The houses that the previous speaker was talking about were usually ranches or cape houses that did not have any historical significance whatsoever. I miss the Anderson family. I miss that house. I used to live behind that house. And by the way, Eileen Sullivan, who just spoke, to help support her father, to help support her family. And Eileen, I really hope you don't mind me saying this. He was a mail carrier, if I remember correctly, but also worked at the prison to help support all the kids.
You did, yeah, yep.
Yeah.
We have
So-
furniture built from the prisoners. We have it here.
Exactly. So it's these types of things that matter to this neighborhood. I am so sorry that the Andersons left. They were a phenomenal family, as well as the other big houses that were being built. And nobody liked those big houses being built. I think what we need to think about is smart building, keeping into the character, and thinking about the historic preservation of what this wonderful little village has, because West Concord is often overlooked because Concord Center is so looked upon.
Mhm.
Thank you for your, thank you. Other folks, comments who are here this evening? If not, any more from the historical commission members themselves? Because,
But I don't know. Can you see us at all? Can you see
Bill Hereford.
Bill Hereford, Sherry Fletcher?
Yeah, we
I
see your
see-
name,
I
Bill
did-
Hereford.
I just see your name. Did you wish?
Okay. I'm very sorry. I'm lucky that I have audio. I'll work on the video. Maybe that's the other icon. Anyway, Sherry Fletcher, 102 Prairie Street, and Bill Hereford at the same address.
Yes, I bought this little Cape here back in 1971. I fell in love with the neighborhood the minute I saw the house, and I've lived here ever since. So it's been quite a few years, over 50 years here. And I marvel at people that come to this neighborhood and don't live in this neighborhood, but they come here just to look at and get the feel of this Norman Rockwell neighborhood. And I would hate to see it chip away house by house by house and turn it into something that's not at all representative of this environment that everybody loves. And I hope that somehow we can preserve that house the way that Robert Hudson has preserved a lot of the houses on Central Street. That's all I have to say. I don't know if you heard me.
We heard you. I hope, would you say your name again and your address? I don't know. Ann, did you get that?
My name is Sherry Fletcher at 102 Prairie Street.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I just wanted to add on the tail end of this. My name is Bill Heref. I also live at 102 Prairie Street. Sherry and I drove around today to look at the impressive list of houses that the builders have done in Concord, quite apart from all the other communities they built in. And but as we were doing so in West Concord, we found a couple of properties that had been drastically remodeled and yet somehow, for sometimes mysterious reasons, captured the spirit of their little corner of the neighborhood. And I'm particularly referring to 15 Pine Street and 56 Riverside. And I'm just wondering if instead of this rendering that appeared in the papers preparing for this evening's meeting, there's the Benjamin House, and then there's a rendering of the proposed.
Put it up to the screen.
I don't know. Can you see that? You
Yeah,
can't see me.
excuse me, Mr. Hereford, I'm sorry, thank you, but that has no relevance to our meeting tonight.
Very good.
You know, it's strictly about the value of
Historical.
these two houses that we're talking about. So it
Very
was-
good. Forgive me.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just other comments about the house itself. Mr. Cronin?
Yes, I'd just like to make a comment pursuant to some earlier remarks. First of all, I was born in Concord, Massachusetts, in a little Cape house on Southfield Road back when the houses cost $9,000 or $10,000. So I'm very, very cognizant, as much as anyone in this phone call, of the history of Concord. This is my town. It's been my town my whole life.
Our town too.
In the 20 houses that we've built in Concord, none of them are what anybody I think would call a McMansion, where we always get together with the neighbors and we want to do stuff that's compatible, that makes everybody happy. So there is a rendering somebody saw that was in our building application, but we've met with the abutters since then. So we're not going to do that. We would do something different. We want to do something that would make Nicole and Eric and Kevin happy, and something that would fit. But I just want to let everybody know, I know we're kind of off the track of what tonight is about, but our intent is to do something that is compatible, that works. The house that's there is very difficult to modernize. But what we would contemplate doing there is something that would be very compatible with the neighborhood. There have been 19 homes built since the year 2000 in that neighborhood. And I'm talking about 154 houses that are on Central Street in that whole neighborhood. 19 have been built in the 21st century. What we proposed earlier and what we would propose going forward would be the smallest of all of those houses. So we are not looking to do anything that is radical. It's not a big lot to begin with, but we do want to do something that would be compatible with the neighborhood. And we, of course, are planning anyway to interact with the neighbors to see if we can get this process accelerated. Richard made a comment earlier that something's going to happen here in a year anyway. And I think it would be smarter to just proceed expeditiously with something that would make everybody happy. I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to put that in.
No,
We're
thank
not
you.
cowboys.
No, thank you. So are there other comments, Nancy?
I don't have a comment, but if no one else does, I'd like to make a motion
Please do.
that the property at 87 Prairie Street be preferably preserved.
I second it.
All in favor? Nancy, please state your name again. Full name.
Nelson, aye.
Michael?
Michael Capizzi, aye.
And Melissa Sawfield, aye. So that means that we do deem it preferably preserved, that, and that a demo delay would now be imposed for a year starting tonight. As you know, you can come back before us and we can evaluate what you would propose about documenting the house. Nancy?
I just would like to say it would be interesting to see if other alternatives other than tearing the house down had been considered. I know a house on Monument Street, the facade was preserved and part of the rest of the house they built behind it. So there may be some options for you to consider that you haven't had a chance to consider yet. That's all. Thanks.
Yes, Mr. Eric Moore?
Hi, thank you. Eric Moore, 45 Francis. Thank you for taking my question. So how relevant in consideration of say that the owners come back in three months or whatever with a proposal for a design that is more consistent with the character of the current house, how relevant is that to any considerations you would make?
It's not so much about the design. It still comes down to our view of the property itself, its historic importance to the neighborhood.
Right.
If they came back and said, well, we would prefer just to rehab it and we will preserve that exterior, we have no jurisdiction over what goes on inside. It's just that we ask you to preserve the house, the essential structure of the house.
Good point.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you. We will be in touch. So I'd like to now move to property 86 Prairie Street across the street. Brenda Menken and Robert Greenberg I see Brenda's here. And someone waving his hand, hello. So actually this house again is a part of the same Darby addition. James Dunlop, I think the first owner was Alexander Bailey, but some of the same, obviously the same history of the association of the house and the neighborhood and the prison reform and the folks who were able to buy and live there that applied to 87 applies to this house as well. So I'd like, yes, to hear from you, the homeowner, why you feel you should have it torn down.
Can you guys hear me?
Mhm.
Yeah. Hey, this is Rob from 86. I'm going to hypothesize that this is a foregone conclusion by reading the room. So if we can fast forward, I'm fine with that. I don't get to talk to my neighbors in Mass a lot. So if I could take 1 minute and share what we're thinking, I would love that opportunity. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not
it's
germane to the historical mission.
Well, I mean, frankly,
yeah.
I want to say that the commission cares very much about what the neighbors think
Okay.
when we have a hearings, and we appreciate that the neighbors are participating.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen about what we're thinking, and then I'm trying to share my screen. I don't know if I did it. The history that we learned tonight was very cool, but we're coming from a different place, which is eco-friendly. History is very important, but so is our carbon emissions. So our goal was to do a net zero home. This is something from Unity Homes. Obviously, this would not fit on our plot. This, what we're looking at would end at this second window. It'd be much smaller. It would be about 1,500 square feet, which would be an increase of about 200 square feet overall. I think it fits the style of the neighborhood wonderfully, and it does have net zero possibility. We've been here 13 years. We love this neighborhood too, and we want to stay in character. And then, we've been working with this house for more than a decade, and we have explored, do we renovate, do we try to rebuild, and we came to the unfortunate conclusion it's cheaper, less wasteful, and ultimately better for the environment to rebuild rather than repair. And we love this neighborhood too, and we want to get old here comfortably, and we value our neighbors as much as anyone. So that's all I had. Questions, comments?
Thank you. Any other commentary from your neighbors? Miss Sullivan, yes, you can take this down now, picture down.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Miss
Hi,
Sullivan.
Robert. So I know that you guys are super environmentally conscious, and I had no idea that was part of the plan. I know that you have the what's that thing out back? You have the heating and the air conditioning thing.
The heat pump, yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, it's such a quandary because I understand that and I get that, and I know I want to do everything to help the environment as well, and because what's that?
Oh, it's my computer.
Bill Hereford. Okay. So I guess I just want to do the right thing, and I mean, I'm not sure what you guys want to do. I mean, I know you want it to be eco-friendly and all that. However, would it still be in the character of this neighborhood?
I think we really don't want to go down there. And now that he's shown,
Sorry.
Again, we are evaluating the merits of the house, the neighborhood, in context with the neighborhood. Now that he's shown you, I think maybe you can speak to your neighbors. But
yes,
that
absolutely.
is not,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Okay.
and that's not for us to decide. Yes, Richard.
So I'll make this short. From the drawing that he just showed us, fits in with many of the houses that have been built in the last 10 years in this neighborhood. And I have no problem whatsoever with them building that new structure.
Thank you. Any other comments from neighbors? Yes, Nicole. Nicole got it this time. You're muted. You're muted.
Having a daughter who is a renewable energy analyst, I greatly value wanting to have a green home. I wish being in a historical home could equate with that. I know there's a lot of things you can do I know there's things that are costly, and I did them in my previous home that was built in 1910, which was next door. And it's really hard because we all love Rob and Brenda and their daughter, Leah, who's applying to college right now. It's really tricky. I think, and we don't want to go against a neighbor that we really know and love. It's hard, but we also, like we talked about in the previous segment, we want to maintain the aesthetic of the history of this area. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Wes?
That's, that's what we talk about as well.
Yeah, and I grew up in a historical district, and there's a lot of give and take. It's not easy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just a quick aside. We can compartmentalize architectural discussions from neighbor being good neighbors. Okay, it's not, don't worry about it. Yeah. Anyway.
No, but you are good neighbors. You really are.
No worries. Yep, cool.
Thank you. Eric, is that right? Eric, yes.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, still Eric Moore, 45 Francis. Of the 6 houses in this cluster, the 3 on the south side of Prairie, and then the Smith's house on the north side, and then Rob and Brenda's house, and then Nicole's house. Rob and Brenda's house is the one house in this group that the group could best tolerate this house coming down without losing the feeling of the cluster, especially because they're talking about putting up a gable front structure with a front porch. So in terms of idiom, I mean, in terms of the details, it's different, but in terms of the idiom, it's a very similar house at a similar scale. I lived here, so I've been here for 20 years. I don't think I realized that Rob's house and Rob and Brenda's house and Nicole's house have the same basic underlying structure until like 2 years ago. They're gable front, but the roof line's a little bit different on the relatively recent kitchen extension. So I feel less concerned about Rob and Brenda's house coming down for multiple reasons. Then I feel very differently about that than I do about the houses in the south side of Prairie. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, we don't know, we don't know what they're,
We don't do this.
can't know that. So, so are there other comments from other neighbors or any more comments from members of the commission, or would someone like to entertain a motion? Michael, Nancy?
I could make the same motion that the house at 86 Prairie Street be preferably preserved.
And I'll second.
All in favor, Nancy?
Nancy Nelson, aye.
Michael?
Michael, aye.
And myself, aye. So again, you could come back to us, but I think I hope you appreciate what we are trying to preserve a neighborhood, a character of the neighborhood. We understand the challenges that you have. Believe me, I think we're all homeowners here, and we all live in Concord, and I think we all love the town. And we have different approaches to how we preserve and care for it. So I appreciate all of you coming tonight and all the hard work that went into this. But again, this is the responsibility of the Historical Commission to make these judgments. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we will move on to the next item in our agenda, which is actually about the demolition delay, but it's an adjustment to the time frame. This was something that we are putting forward for town meeting, which would adjust I hope you all have this document. It was part of the current meeting documents that would change the public hearing date from 60 days from the current 45 days. And also, if we've failed to make a determination within the 60 days, the building can be granted a demolition permit. Part of this is because with our new newspaper in town, and there's a different deadline for posting legal ads, which is a part of the requirement for the whole demolition delay process. So I'm just asking members of the commission if they have any questions to please pose them, or please, we need to take a vote to approve the wording of this amendment and put it forward for a town meeting in April, May. Any questions?
The most straightforward thing I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it was pretty simple. So do I have a motion from someone? Michael, Nancy?
Well,
I made the last two.
Yeah, Michael, thank you.
I make a motion that we adopt this and vote yes.
I second.
Okay, so that we will approve the language that has been proposed for the demolition review bylaw amendment. All in favor, Nancy,
I
Michael,
I,
and myself, aye. So thank you. Okay, so that will be go on the town warrant. The next item for discussion, and I still don't see Elizabeth. Anne, have you heard from Elizabeth at all?
I haven't. I'll text her.
Okay, you could text her.
Sure.
So while Anne is doing that, I'm just going to skip over because these are pretty simple ones too. Item 4, historical significance. So part of the application for the both the Civil War Monument, these are grant request to the Community Preservation Committee, the Civil War Monument, that is to add the name of George Dugan, and then the town archives, the work of Nate Smith for the public works documents of William Wheeler and the town plans of Concord. The town council has recommended that the historical commission deem these historically significant so they can be presented at town meeting for approval. The CPC has, Nancy can chime in, but the CPC has moved them forward to say that they should receive their grant, but technically they also, the recommendation, yes, it has to go before the town meeting, but another hurdle for them is for us to deem them historically significant.
Can I make a little comment about that?
Yep, please.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry.
No.
If it's not somehow otherwise documented as being historically significant, the historical commission has the duty and the obligation and the power to declare that something is significant to the history of the town.
And I think it's pretty clear that the Civil War Monument, it needs to include the name of George Dugan. There's been a lot of work, a great deal of historical research done on that. I mean, I would say that the plans of William Wheeler was involved in developing the whole Neshodic Hill. And, we've been discussing a name change for Squaw Trail. That was a whole part of the work that he did, laid out that whole area, and may well have been the person who suggested the name. At any rate, so I think it's very clear that these documents are historically important. So I would ask if someone would make a motion that we would vote on these two items together.
At the risk of slightly delaying, could I jump in just to ask one question? Because I'm inclined to agree, Melissa, that these seem to be historically important. And I have no doubt about the first one, having, I've been following the Civil War Monument, and I recognize that its clear significance. As far as the archives go, I've talked to Nate, and I've been looking at a number of the documents that have been digitized, and I've been struck by how important they indeed are. I'm inclined to believe these are probably also significant, but having also done work in archives, I know that things can range everywhere from a scribble on a scrap of paper to something that is developed. So I would feel personally more comfortable, I'm not a voting member of the commission, if it were possible to at least inspect on some very basic level, even a simple digital photograph of the plans, both the 7 pages of the town plans of Concord and the 2 pages of the waterworks. Just, I would feel more comfortable knowing after having seen visually their significance, as opposed to signing off on their potential significance.
Yeah.
So did you, I'm gathering that you may not have been at the townhouse when we did see these plans.
I certainly was not, and I'm sorry not to have had that opportunity.
Yeah, they're pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And I bet he'd share those with you.
I can maybe pull up their application that must have photographs in it, if that would be helpful.
Yep. Yeah, yes, thank you.
All right, sure.
Nancy, when was that? Was that a recent visit, or was that sometime?
It was one of the first site visits for CPC.
Yeah, Ryan, you wouldn't have gone. It would have
It
been
was for
Nancy's.
CPC. Sorry about that.
Oh, there she is. Yes.
And since
Um,
I'm a non-voting member on this question, I don't need to delay this at all, but I would be, as a matter of personal interest as a Concord historian, but
Yeah.
also because I think it sets important precedent that we have laid eyes indeed on that which we're deeming to be historically
You
significant.
know, just to be totally technically obtuse, these are actual historic objects. So I think maybe they don't even need us to vote on this, but it'd be good if we did, because there seemed to be a request for it. So,
well,
so these are real old things, so they're historic.
well,
historic
I mean, I know that the William Wheeler ones are really important.
Yeah, very important.
Very important. And I'm going to take the vote, but Anne, can you pull it up?
Yes, unfortunately, it doesn't have any images, but I can
okay.
also contribute that the set of drawings, the plot plans, they're the first set of plot plans that actually include plot lines for the town of Concord. So any previous maps just show the houses, they don't show the lot lines. So that was the reason that Nate selected that as a priority. But I can certainly show you the application. Just one second. So unfortunately, there are no images, but I think that that's actually his goal, is to create those
It's to
images.
create images, indeed.
Right.
I will write him tomorrow in the hope that I might be able to go see these, because now trust me when I say that my interest is piqued.
Good idea.
Okay, great.
Okay. So now we've piqued Ryan's interest. So, and I think it's a good thing you can't vote tonight. So
Right.
for those who can't vote, actually, Nancy or Michael, would you make a motion that we deem these two documents historically significant and forward that to the CPC?
Yes, I make that motion.
And I second it.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
And I vote aye.
okay. Thank you, Nancy. Aye. Michael?
Aye.
And Melissa, aye. So done. And Ryan, interest and skepticism will be, I'm sure, allayed.
Yes.
Thank you. So we will go back.
Not skepticism, just the precedent of having been able to
Understand,
verify.
a stickler, an historical stickler. That's fine. That's why we
Well,
want.
that's my fault. I should have thought about you and the rest of the commission, probably.
No, thank you. So we're going to go back to item 3, which thank you, Elizabeth. I see you there. Thank you. And Anne, if you could put up the draft rules and regulations for the.
So actually, Anne, I'll share my screen.
Okay,
And I can scroll through and.
Thank you.
without having to bug you.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh,
So let me know if that's large enough. Because if everybody can see that.
it's okay by me. What do other folks say? Is it okay?
it's pretty good.
Okay. So the document, so I first want to clarify, so the draft rules and regs that the commission got is the second iteration. This second iteration was based on the first round of input from the Historical Commission and the first round of input from the Public Works Commission and the Public Works Department. By no means is this document reflecting, all of this is being included. I think there has been some, concern raised by other individuals. Some of the items in here, have raised concern, and that's fine. I'm happy it raises concern. That's what sparks conversation. And I think if one person or whether it's the either commission, concerns are being raised, it it creates that conversation, and then the planning board can take that feedback and try and move forward in a productive manner. So I kind of want to set that stage. So in here, I'm just going to go through each section, and then, if somebody has a question, just say, let me know. And I'm going to expand my people so I can see everybody. Okay, so items in red are, just items that have changed or were, added from the previous version. And for these first two under section 1.1, 1.2, these are just clarifying. It's, I don't think anybody has any concerns or comments about that.
No, that's fine. Yep.
We get into definitions, and everything in red is new, and these are items where they were brought in either from a conversation from or comments from the Historical Commission or comments from the Public Works Commission. And so this is where I'm hoping to get feedback from this commission as well as the Public Works Commission on these definitions. And so my first comment, CPW recommends the statement read total land area acquired by the town for the roadway, other travel improvements and utilities, and may have limits originally defined by stone walls. It is my opinion that a public road right of way is just a defined area set by meets and bounds and nothing else. What the right of way was acquired for, or improvements and utilities that may be made in the right of way, is not part of a definition of what a public road right of way is. Whether a stone wall defines the limit of a public road right of way is a physical factor that is presumed to be in the public road right of way unless the applicant provides a survey plan showing otherwise. Further discussion on this recommendation is needed. So hang on, Nancy, let me finish. So what part of this taking comments from both commissions and trying to put this into rules and regs is, and I'm glad I'm here, and because I have not gone to the Public Works Commission meeting yet to have this conversation with them either, is education on how things get inputted into rules and regulations, where they get inputted in the appropriate place, and how it works to assist the board and board or commission who is responsible for for upholding these rules and regs. So the concern raised by the Public Works Commission that the total land area acquired by the town to be used and maintained, that's fine. But for a definition, a public road right of way is a defined set of meets and bounds, either shown on a plan or some of the older ones, it actually, 150 feet turn however many degrees. And so that's where my comment is coming from when you talk about what is a public road right of way.
I agree. Their definition is, I don't know why it's in there. It seems unnecessary. Yours is a simple definition of a public road right of way. That's all we're trying to come at. What is the definition of a right of way? You make it very clear.
I'll go for that.
I want what you have, Elizabeth. I don't agree with what the CPW is proposing.
Okay. So all of, so what I'm gonna do, and this is where it becomes a little bit more challenging, is what the planning board is looking for is, like the actual comments from the commission on this current draft. So, I can work with Ann. This first comment under, well, whether it might be the second comment, because we skipped over 142. But
Yeah.
so for 143 public road right of way, the comment would be, the commission feels that the definition should not include these other items.
I mean, when we presented this at town meeting, we had a pretty simple definition of the public road right of way. Right? And as you say, just by meets and bounds, they're including utilities and travel improvements. That's not a simple, just a simple definition of what is the right of way, not what are the utilities, what are the
Everything you put in it. Yeah.
They threw all kinds of stuff into this. It's trying to find just what a simple definition is.
That's more of a legal definition that you're proposing, right, Elizabeth?
Yes.
And commonly accepted. So I would say use the commonly accepted, legally grounded definition of a right of way. Does that help you
That
as a comment?
Also, because later
does help me.
on, if there is an issue, you have to, we're saying later on that you'd have to have a survey done if there was any question of where the boundary of the right of way and private property.
Right. So that's this last part right here.
Yeah.
That should, in my opinion, remain.
Yes, I agree.
Is that in your?
So the comment from the historical commission would be to have a definition that's, Nancy, to your words, more, legally grounded in, what is a public road right of way, which is defined either on a by meets and bounds or
The center of the stone wall.
Well, it's the recorded plan of the, and I can't think of, sorry, I'm on parking in Concord Academy right now.
Yeah.
It's
Recorded in the deed.
well, when a road becomes a public road, it has to go to town meeting for acceptance. And there's a recorded acceptance plan for the road. So it's something like that, Anne. We can definitely work on this next week.
But it's a lot simpler. I mean, I don't.
There is a simpler definition for what is a public road right of way, and the right of way is that defined area, and it does not need to list that it includes, bridges and structures and drainage systems. It's, whatever is in the public road right of way is within the right of way.
Right.
You don't have to enumerate that stuff.
Right.
So back up to 142 that I skipped over.
Oh, good.
I thought that this was what we kind of talked about before.
I have a question though. Why are we following CPW standard operating procedures from 2006, and where can they be found?
I
Maybe
don't know, and I'm
It's like a non sequitur. It's right of way maintenance. We're not talking about care of trees. It's just
no. The standard operating procedures could be important. And I would like to know what's in them.
I don't know. I will have to look for them, but
Okay.
but again, going back to what is the definition of right-of-way maintenance? The care of trees should follow CPW standard operating. That's not a definition.
No,
So
I think that needs to be removed.
Leave it out.
I'd take it out. I mean, we may want to know what those operating procedures are, but in this
I do.
under 1.42, that again is like a non sequitur. It should be out of there.
Yep, I could agree with that.
okay.
The other thing is, that really bothers me a lot is, this routine kind of, work to mitigate, eliminate, or avoid hazardous conditions as determined by the tree warden, and also includes overhead line clearing. And we know that that's a major problem in some.
So, but overhead line clearing, you have to also remember that the state statute for a scenic roads bylaw, the trigger is very small. In overhead line clearing, in my opinion, should never even be mentioned in this bylaw, because it will never trigger a scenic road, requirement.
No, because
It is not the cutting or removal of a tree in connection with a roadway project.
that's
It's
what we're
not-
talking about.
So you have to understand the statute is, in my opinion, very, very narrow. It is the cutting or removing of a tree in connection with a roadway project.
And that, I mean, that's in the language
That's
of
in
the
the
law
law, in
itself.
connection with the roadway project.
Yes.
So overhead line clearing has nothing to do with a roadway project. Putting in a new utility pole,
Well,
they had to remove a huge tree, has nothing to do with the roadway project. It would never, in my opinion, trigger.
so none of right-of-way maintenance should trigger. Because
Well-
it's not a project.
Well, but
Right, but so I want to be, careful to make sure that, it right-of-way maintenance, there is at least in these rules and regs, an understanding on both sides of what is maintenance and what is not maintenance. So, the complete clearing of trees and vegetation, if it's to help an existing sight line, that because something's overgrown and it's just helping an existing situation, that doesn't trigger the bylaw. If it's to clear the trees and then they want to add a little pavement to make a right-hand turn a little bit more sweeping, that's not maintenance.
Right.
You now have, so that's why I at least want the bylaw, the rules and regs to have this definition. So, so that there is a clear understanding.
Well,
That certainly makes sense.
what about
Yes.
this new machine that Aaron's so proud of and happy with, I should say, that has a deck that goes along the right of way and can also go vertically and just cut everything in sight? What is that? Is that routine maintenance?
Yeah, that is routine maintenance, but that is maintenance of the roadside, whether whether it's people's opinion that that's the proper way to prune vegetation and trees,
Well, it does
that's
say
a different conversation.
It does say including the proper pruning of trees. And that's why I'm bringing this up. This is really an important area where a scenic road could really get damaged. And you see it along Lowell Road really clearly.
So again, that's somewhat of, so I agree, include keep including the proper pruning of trees.
Yeah,
Is using that brush mower to prune trees, proper pruning of trees? No,
Not,
but,
no.
but again, again, if the other side of it is, let's say, somebody from, just went down and used a hacksaw and hacked off limbs, that's still not in connection with a roadway, a roadway project.
what's a roadway project then?
Well, but wait a minute, but if someone was hacking the trees and that is not proper pruning of trees, that would be a
Right.
violation, right? As you're defining it?
Well, so let's
Right away
go
maintenance.
back, let's go back. So when you propose to cut or remove trees in connection with repair, maintenance, reconstruction, or paving work.
Where are you? 1.2?
So 1.3.
1.3.
1.3. Okay, yeah.
So repair, maintenance, reconstruction, or paving work. This is where. So again, this is just a definition.
Right.
So whether somebody believes the use of that vertical brush hog mower deck is considered proper pruning of trees or not, has nothing to do with the definition.
Okay, well, what's the last sentence though says shall comply with the provisions of these rules and regs, right? Express, oh,
Yes.
unless express.
Unless it is
So it seems to include,
mitigate, eliminate, or avoid hazardous conditions.
so it seems to include, I don't see project only in any of the language in this. So it talks about removing trees, tearing down stone walls, any road, blah, 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 in connection with repair, maintenance, reconstruction, or paving work.
That's up in the applicability.
I'm sorry.
So you have the purpose and what is, an applicability under 1.3.
Gotcha.
So this is just a definition.
I don't have any trouble with that first part.
But so Elizabeth, the final statement and to routine overhead line clearing, that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about, though. That they just threw that in, right? That's above the tree. Overhead line clearing is thinning out the tree canopy because
Right.
of utilities.
Correct.
Do we need that in here? I mean, I don't know. Does it protect our roads better by keeping it in?
Do you need the last sentence?
By the way, shall include the cutting or removal tree stumps, but down.
And I will have to think about this one. I will have to think about that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have a very strong image in my mind of a grand old oak tree with the center cut out of it with power lines running through it.
Yeah, it's awful.
In every.
So again, I agree, but we will never win that argument. And here's why. Only because I'm married to a Concord, a retired Concord lineman.
Yeah. I remember that.
You only have two options. You have, because you can't get rid of those electrical lines. You can't underground them. So you have two options. You either selectively cut around them or you remove the tree.
Or you do a really bad job pruning.
So,
Well, that, yeah,
what, no, so how somebody goes about and prunes the tree is a different conversation.
Yeah.
But you either trim those branches around that line, or you cut the tree down. The alternative is you have significant safety and hazard issues.
Yep.
So I completely understand. Because nobody likes to see that. But if CMLP went around and cut down every single tree,
Ugh.
That impedes their lines, it really would be worse.
I
So
think it's really hanging on proper, the word proper. And
but Nancy, so I'm gonna move on.
Yep.
You're talking about an issue you have with how something is being done.
right. Well,
I understand that.
It's in the language right here, which satisfies me.
So, all right, so moving on.
okay, so
So
1.4.3.
then it becomes a conversation with, the Public Works, regardless of these rules and regs. It becomes a conversation with Public Works, and specifically Aaron as the tree warden, that using that vertical mowing deck to trim trees is not appropriate.
Yeah, all right, so that's a conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's a separate conversation.
So our 1.4.3, the change is, I don't know who put in the total land area acquired by the town.
No, so that was, yeah, so we've already talked about this one, and so I'm gonna,
Okay,
I will work with Ann on, the comment that,
okay,
this
that's fine.
definition needs
Yep.
to be, more reflect what is a public road right of way, and that's the
Yep.
area either established by meets and bounds or, the recorded roadway acceptance plan.
Okay, so we can move on to the roadway
Mhm.
repair, that's fine.
All right, so the last one is the definition of a stone wall. So-
Honestly, I think that we don't have the dates. We don't know the dates. I think this is just kind of an unnecessary requirement. The simple definition of it's a continuous grouping of stones forming a straight or curved line. This seems adequate to me.
Okay, so, but what if somebody builds a retaining wall out of stones?
It says somewhere that those are not stone walls, it says somewhere in these regs.
Okay,
That a retaining wall.
And
is
it's
just that.
virtually impossible to date stone walls.
it is.
Yeah.
It's this part right here. Stones that
yeah,
are
there it
used
is.
for the structural reinforcement or retention of earth
Yeah, there
are
it
not
is.
included in this definition.
There you go.
But this portion right here. So for this item, I would expect the comment from the Historical Commission to be that, it's virtually impossible to provide a minimum age or an original purpose for the placement of the stone wall. It could have been, a property boundary. It could have been for livestock. It could have been, somebody's garden. I mean, there's no way to
Also, they were moved around. Historically, they've been moved, but now we're trying to preserve them. Right?
Right. Most stone walls were constructed on a property boundary as the farmer dug up his field every year, and rocks grow.
Yep.
And so another rock grew,
Yep.
and it got put on a stone wall. It's
Yeah.
so that for Anne, because I imagine your head spinning as far as how to write this comment letter. So I would imagine that would be the comment for this one, regarding it's virtually impossible to date
stone walls or tell, what their original purpose, for the placement was,
Not always, but yeah. Sometimes very difficult.
Okay, so moving on.
0.6.
So we have stone wall repair and maintenance.
Kind of missing.
Well, that's because nobody provided me their input.
I thought I did, I gave something some time ago, but it's been lost to history.
Yes, I can try and find it in a second.
There's a little something that sounds like that in here. To move stones
So,
for the purposes of repair.
Oh, okay, hang on one second.
Can
I
take
might
a
have,
stab
I
at-
might have missed this one, sorry.
I can take a stab at that.
So is this tearing down or destruction of stone walls? So this was tearing down or destruction of stone walls? Is the comment you that was previously
That's the next
provided?
one. I'm sorry, because that's the next one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was not what is considered stone wall repair and
Yeah.
maintenance.
I would say, do you want me to send you something or do it now?
No, I mean, if since it's already 8:37, if the rest of the commission is fine with Nancy sending me, I have a feeling that while it is my goal to, I'm not concerned at this point in time about violations to the scenic road bylaw. The engineering division is not issuing, any roadway or driveway approach permits right now. So, things are not going to happen. So based on this discussion, and I imagine what will happen the next iteration, there will be a third draft that will go back to both commissions before it goes back to the planning board. I do not think the planning board feels that they, want to move forward unless there is at least some, a better consensus between the two commissions on the language.
Okay.
I do imagine there will be a couple of items where the planning board's just going to have to make, a determination on what direction to go. But I think there still is quite a little bit more work that needs to be happened. So.
So if it's okay, then Nancy, would you send something to?
Yeah, and it'll probably be 1 sentence.
Okay.
That's fine. Well, the more succinct, the better, I think sometimes.
That's fine.
And then to your point, Melissa, this is the item, the comment that you had provided under the tearing down or destruction of stone walls.
Okay.
A tree is
6 inches.
I mean, that's a pretty good.
this is consistent with the tree preservation bylaw.
Yep. So that seems fine.
All right, so next we get into.
Oh, this is easy. We just eliminate all of this. That's my position.
So I'm perfectly happy with that. I think it's coming up with the comment from the commission that can be supported by the planning board, that, these rules and regs are for the implementation of the scenic roads bylaw. And it is not for
Election or besides,
Right.
the planning board does not, well, the planning board and we, the historical commission, are the only two that can propose a scenic road. I guess, although maybe a citizen could, but my understanding is just the two of us. And this is about rules and regulations in implementation, not the suggestion of a new road. Right.
Correct.
And that's all this is about is
Correct.
in the future, you should do this, and you should probably check with, I don't know, Putin to see whether he'd like one.
Well,
I'm
this
very
is,
facetious.
this is setting a process for future designations that have not been contemplated or discussed by the planning board.
Yeah, and this has nothing to do with
Oh.
this.
Yeah,
So, you
and
know,
there's already a process for,
so this would be the process, for, adding additional scenic roads, and these rules and regs are designed to assist the planning board in the implementation of the scenic roads bylaw. So
Right.
that would be my comment.
yeah,
Yep,
and this is
right.
just a new.
That's a good comment.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
All right, so. And so I don't, Public Works
Rest-
procedures for scenic road alterations. I'm not, I'm
This
not
is
sure,
pretty, there are very little changes in here. This
I'm
is
not,
just-
but I'm not sure if alterations is
The
the
right
right word.
word.
I might think about that one.
Okay,
And just so everybody knows, we are no longer sending our legal notices to the
Oh.
Concord Journal. They are now going to be published in the Concord Bridge.
Right,
And I will, and the planning division will probably stop its subscription to the Concord Journal altogether anyways.
okay.
Um,
2.3.
Yep, so, so this is all
So-
just the legal notice requirements, the hearing requirements. And so now we get into the more meat of this is the considerations for a decision. And this is where, I was specifically hoping the commissions could assist. And it's, so these items 231 to 238 are what was presented as part of the warrant article for the scenic roads bylaw and what it is used when evaluating a project on a scenic road. So for these rules and regs, what I was hoping is to have language that would assist applicants and or the planning board in evaluating these projects.
Okay.
So I think for public safety, it's, it's fairly simple, the applicant, provides information supporting that criterion. Somebody would have to just make that argument to the planning board, whether it's a private developer who needs to put in a driveway and a tree has to be moved for sight distance. Whether it's public works and it's, crash data or accident data, or, it's going to be data, it's going to be data driven. I'm fine with that one.
Yeah.
Preservation of natural resources and environmental values. As hard as I try, I cannot come up with what information an applicant would provide the planning board or what basis the planning board is going to use in evaluating a scenic roads
Well,
application.
We talked about the canopy preservation of canopy trees. That's all I really remember about what I didn't.
Why can't you just say
Article.
something like evaluate the impact on water, vegetation and, stuff.
But that doesn't,
General.
again, we're talking about a scenic road and trees and stone walls. That's the crux
Yeah,
of this,
well,
trees
then-
and stone walls.
But if you're talking about preserving natural resources, environmental values, you're not just talking scenic.
I know, but
Well, But
So you
that's the
take it
purpose of the
out?
rules, and that's the purpose of the rules and regs. So you have to tie it back to the purpose of the scenic roads bylaw. So let's take Let's
Take
take the
that out.
perfect example, the 3 homes on Monument Street where there's now 3 individual driveways going through that
Mhm.
500 perfect linear feet of stone wall. What if that developer provided an application? What would the planning board utilize in evaluating that application under this criterion?
Well, the idea was to preserve as much of the existing stone wall and as possible, but that's, so we would have encouraged them to have made just one opening rather than 3 to
Right, so-
eliminate the
But that's 2.3.3.
yeah, that's
not
historic, not
2.2.
natural resources and environmental values.
Do you have to keep 2.3.2, Elizabeth?
I don't have to keep anything, but this was something that was identified as part of the warrant article.
Oh, that's right.
So I don't,
Impacts to wildlife, water, and vegetation. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I don't remember.
so it would have, it was part, I think it was part of the. Shoot. Was it part of the explanation?
No, I didn't, let's see. If a tree is a roadway, blah, 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 blah. I didn't remember this at all. It's not, aside, land clearing as well.
So
Not-
I have been struggling with that one for quite a,
I don't
quite
see
a
that it
while.
has any
So-
relevance. We're not talking about natural resources and, we're talking about stone walls and trees in the public right away.
Okay, so it was part of the, it was part of the FAQ.
Well, we shouldn't have been so comprehensive. There it is, environmental values, preservation. Well, preservation of natural resources, we're talking about the trees.
You're talking about all kinds of vegetation growing in and out of stone walls, around the stone walls, trees, shrubs, all
Yeah,
that.
but we're letting them trim those with their brush cutter or whatever it is to, so we can see the beautiful stone wall.
Where did that go?
Okay, so I guess it's where, where you throw in stone walls and trees, stone walls, I think, go under 233.
Historical, yes.
And so, maybe 232 deals, and you have the scenic and, aesthetic characteristic, that's where, we're talking about canopy trees and agricultural fields and,
Well, I mean, doesn't it specifically talk to the trees and the environment, a preservation of, well, I mean, the whole idea was this vista, it reinforces what we're preserving, which is the natural historic landscape and the historic vistas and.
Can I point out that 234 does that?
Yeah, I know it does. And
Okay,
that's why I'm
so-
thinking that 2.3.2 is not necessary because it's incorporated in the others.
Yeah.
okay.
So why couldn't we,
Is there consensus? All I need is head nods from the other commission members.
Mhm.
If there's a consensus to delete 232
yeah, so nod your head, please.
Yes, please.
or not.
Well, if you're not going to nod your head, then you got to come up with a definition.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Okay. All right, so the rest of these are my attempts. So I don't know if everybody's had time to look
Yep.
at these.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, I think those are fine.
I would only say on 2.32, maybe you could use it to justify getting rid of trees like Norway maples, you know, that would actually help.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go there because
No, okay.
I think, yeah,
I'm already running into Norway maple issues. Under the tree preservation, under the tree preservation bylaw, where I think the planning board will act, because currently you can remove a Norway maple as an invasive. Where, I think the planning board is going to be discussing having maybe not, currently remove a native, there's the calculation is, the diameter of it and, half that diameter, maybe requiring at least a quarter diameter of even, invasives because of just, a tree, whether it's a sugar maple or a Norway maple does have, value. And because there are some, like a 32-inch Norway maple is, oh, well, we don't have to mitigate for that. So we're just going to take it out. So
Well, we don't.
I would point out, so Nancy, I've said this to you, that Brian Donahue says, get over it. Norway maples, I've been here so long, you should not consider them invasive anymore.
There are very, well,
I'm just
I'd
throwing that
I'd like to clarify that with him actually, because I don't think that's accurate.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to delete it. Everybody can still think about it. If you come up with something you think, and then
I like the rest of all this.
all right.
The DPW things, the CPW things, I think they're asking for things that are already covered in the items above.
Right, so town criteria, town vision and master plan for, so that's consistency with articulated plans.
Policies, yes.
And then reasonable alternatives. You can
Is
talk
reasonable
about
alternatives.
I stated that previously, right there. 2.3.6.
Yes.
So it's already there.
and significant damages. I just don't think those are important. What are they talking about? Threats to significant damage to land and improvements?
What
I don't know.
So I wouldn't include any of those. They seem covered by the items above.
Above, yes.
Okay. Oops.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, I don't know what I just did, but.
Oops, still there.
Okay. Nothing with decisions. Those are just standard requirements as far as the decisions. Okay. So exemptions.
I thought this was what we included when we talked at town meeting, that their market.
It is.
So we would have no problem with this.
So CPW is suggesting including traffic safety improvements in the exemption.
No, I think if it's a traffic safety, I think they have to go before the planning board. Because that could.
Boy, traffic safety improvement sounds a lot to me like complete streets.
Yeah.
Well, so a traffic safety improvement can be the complete redesign of an intersection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take down a stone wall, could take down trees. I think that
Okay. So your comment letter can't be
say that.
can't be just no. No, so, they're, a traffic safety improvement project can be small. It can also be very significant.
Yes,
Changing the intersection of Cambridge Turnpike and Lexington Road, technically was a traffic safety improvement.
That was a huge change to a historic road.
yeah.
Right, well,
Also.
they're not scenic roads, but anyways.
So that should not be an exemption. That should be a conversation, things like that.
I think that would be a great comment.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, no is not adequate. I understand.
Oh, boy.
Including at the beginning of this item. Except for item A, B, C, and D above.
Huh?
Item E, temporary removal and replacement of stone wall in the same location with the same materials within 30 days of the town planners notified.
Oh, that's your comment.
So
this
CPW wants to be exempt from having to notify me and replace a stone wall within 30 days.
Whoa, removement. Well, is it? How do you
What would be-
temporarily remove and replace a historic stone wall?
What would be an example of this, Elizabeth? What are they talking about? I mean, they're taking the whole thing down and they're going to put it right back within 30 days. What would that be to do? To install a new, I don't know, storm drain, or I don't know, some kind of utility?
That's a project, so they should have already been under the
So,
conditions of the bylaw, right?
So, I mean, so when you think about it, this is an exemption. If somebody needs to temporarily remove a stone wall, let's say to underground, all the utilities for a new house.
Yep.
And just want to temporarily remove it, do all the trenching, put in your conduit, and then put the stone wall back.
Yeah.
So that's what this exemption is for.
Wow.
But still,
So-
I would not, I would think they would have to come before you and get permission before they do that, not get an exemption, not just assume they could do it.
To the planning board, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This could be really, this basically says destroy what's the original and put it back the way you like it better. Like what happened on Virginia Road when they took down the wall and moved the wall. And they probably used all the same material, but it was never the same wall.
What, item E?
Yeah, the temporary removal and replacement.
No, in the same location.
Yeah, but, well, okay, they didn't put it, yeah, this was not in the same location, but the same point applies. They take it down, it's not a historic, it's not a, I don't know.
I just ask you, Elizabeth, is this reasonable?
I guess I don't understand. I'm not inclined to include, to try and interpret their recommendation.
Okay.
And include something where I can't understand. So, I think, for me, it would be, going back to Public Works Commission and the Public Works Department and having them clarify this, request.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just say that Stonewall building is a real art too. And so I don't know if the CPW has that skill,
Yeah.
to reconstruct a stone wall accurately,
Yeah.
So maybe that was why, maybe that was the purpose of including a review.
it will look very different.
Yeah. I've tried to do it myself. It's not easy.
Okay.
And this is just the requirement for coordination under the public shade tree. Emergency conditions.
Yep. So I presume the, under the enforcement, these are probably consistent with some other communities' bylaws.
Yes.
Yeah.
Compliance and penalty. That's it.
That's a lot.
That's not that much.
Well, thank you. And needless to say, we could not have done this without you.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth.
Well, I will work with
And Ann.
Anne on drafting a comment letter, and then Nancy, if you want to send Ann and I your suggestion, well, I'll just we can include that in the comment letter and as part of the next draft
Okay.
of changes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, well thank you, Elizabeth. That concludes the business for this evening. We had a lot to do this evening, and we got a new member. Thank you. And Jesse declined for now, but welcome aboard, Ryan. I think, and do I send a notice about Ryan's vote here to the town clerk's office?
You're muted, Anne.
Maybe I should do that. I'll send it to the town clerk's office, I guess, because that's usually who, asks me stuff. So I'll do that tomorrow.
Right.
So sending what?
Well,
Excuse me, doesn't the select board have to vote on it to approve it?
yeah, but I think I have to notify the town clerk that we did this, and then they send it to the select board. So we had a resignation from our commission. Ryan will now become the next full member, but he needs to get sworn in and approved by the select board.
Not now.
Ryan, have you submitted a green card?
He's already an associate member.
Oh, okay. So yes, so Anne would just send on behalf of the commission a request to the select board that they appoint Ryan as a full member.
Okay.
And then you have an associate member
And then
also.
we have a new associate member, Nancy Frizella Lee, and yes, she has done all the above.
So she's been nominated and appointed by the select board.
Well, she's been nominated
No.
and voted by us. She needs to,
Same kind of letter.
Okay, so it's the same, so
Same thing.
yeah, it was
Same
just,
thing.
Anne is just gonna send one email to the select board stating the historical commission recommends the appointment of Ryan as a full member and Nancy as an associate member. Anne will work with or she probably already has worked with Lori in the town clerk's office to make sure we get term dates correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we've had a little, issue there, but I think we're clear now.
Oh, everybody's had issues with term dates. Yeah. And then, so for Ryan, I think they just appoint. It's just one action by the select board. Since you're an associate member, I think they just can appoint you as a full member. Nancy, because she's new, she will be nominated at one meeting and then appointed at a second meeting.
Okay.
But Ryan, you will get an appointment letter from the select board. And you even going from an associate to a full member, you still have to go to the town clerk and get sworn in.
Oh, interesting.
The short walk.
Yeah, for you, that's true.
Yeah, so Ryan, it's one meeting at the select board. Nancy, it will be 2 meetings with the select board.
Okay.
And just by the way, just so I understand, so Chessie, are you planning to take, I don't know if when the next rotation is, but are you thinking about joining that next year, a year from now?
Well,
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be, whenever the next opening arises, I just think, in the next few months, it's possible that I might have to miss a meeting or two if the
really,
doesn't align with the baby's
3 kids?
7 p.m. needs.
I was only going to say, can I be appointed? I'd be happy to be like an interim. I mean,
Oh, no, Ryan, no, please. No, that's really kind of you, but
There's gonna
no
be
worries
several
about that at all.
rotations anyway.
Yeah, so
So
Nancy,
both
Nancy,
Nancy and Melissa go off
April 30th
May
or
31st.
something like that. Maybe,
doesn't sound like you're counting the days or anything.
confusing my committees. Yeah,
But is this a second term for both you, Nancy and Melissa?
yeah.
but you know what? What
Amazingly-
if we don't want, if we want to ask to be re-upped? Can we do that?
So currently that's
Am I putting you on the spot?
no, it has nothing to do with me. That's the current policy for the select board is it's, a 2-term limits.
Unless
And,
unless you appeal to them.
But I can think of a handful of people right now who have
too.
served longer on
Well,
CPC.
so it comes
on-
down to it's 2 full terms. John Brady started off with the zoning board of appeals, filling an unexpired associate term for 2 years. Then he got appointed for 2 consecutive 3-year terms, so a total of 6 years. So now he was on 8 years. Then filled an unexpired full member term for 2 years, and then did 2 full member terms. He was on for 16 years.
Oh my God.
So that's how that happens.
Wow.
Well,
Wow.
my only interest, and this is selfishly, is that if this grant for the preservation plan goes through, I would like to be able to help on it. So I would like to be
So
alone with somebody.
Both Nancy and Melissa, you both serve 2 terms as an associate and 2 terms as a full member?
No,
And a
I
full
didn't
member.
fulfill 2 terms as an associate.
So get appointed as an associate member for 2 terms.
Okay, so okay,
Well, that's interesting.
okay, that sounds good. But that means someone has to go off. So we have 7 people, 5 full people and 2 associates.
Yes.
And like I think Michael, you, Alan, and who am I missing? Our 2025, right?
I think just he and I. It would have been, I think it would have been Rebecca, I think, but she's retired.
So now Ryan, because Ryan's filling Rebecca's spot.
Unexpired term.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, so you're one of those who could be on for a long time. The way it's-
Well,
You could be.
we never thought about going back to an associate position.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's something for a different day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we got food for thought.
You're gonna declare us done?
So I think yes, this has been a very long meeting. So I would, may I have a motion to?
You don't need, as chair, you get to just adjourn the meeting.
Oh, okay. I officially adjourn the meeting and have a happy holiday. Have to be very.
Yes.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays,
Thank you.
everyone.
See you all next year.
Yes.
Thank you.